Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. Today's topic is boundaries. Now, I could talk a lot, could discuss a lot about this topic. There's so much to explore here, but I'm going to try to say some of the key things that I've been thinking about around this topic and share a little bit about how we can create and hold boundaries from an energetic perspective and an embodiment perspective, as I usually do. So, boundaries in general, we need them. They are useful. We need to know what ours are. We need to know how to use them in certain situations. And I know for myself and other people that they can get watery, right? They can also be really strong. And I'll talk about that a little bit and how that works energetically. So, if we are someone who doesn't hold strong boundaries, we may, in order to counteract that, like when we realize that we really don't have strong boundaries, and I'm a little bit in this camp, we may go like the complete opposite direction, right? Like just really have to cut lots of people out and just find our own way back to ourselves if we've really not been able to hold certain kinds of boundaries in our lives. And you know what? That's okay. Sometimes that's the way that we get there, right? Like that's how we figure it out. It's like we go the opposite direction, and it's understandable. From an energetic perspective, what's happening a lot of times is that what we want to hold in terms of boundaries is somehow not aligned with our energy. So we may want to hold a strong boundary, but there's other things going on, right? Like, I will use myself as an example, as I often do, because I think it's important just to share that, the things I'm talking about all the time, I've experienced in my life and worked through them and am working through them. And so the things I'm sharing have come from my own personal growth journey and my own personal development. So, I am someone who has not always had the strongest boundaries in certain areas of my life. In relationships is one. And I know that I actually know some things that happened to me when I was younger, right? Like mistreatment and a very things that, how do I say it, that crossed some natural boundaries when I wasn't really able to defend myself. Yeah. And I think a lot of women may have experienced that. And so that, for one, is in the background, right? It's like, of course, I want to hold a boundary. And again, that can go either end of the spectrum, right? Like things happened to us when we were younger, and we can either then push really hard and make sure that never happens again and have a very strong, impermanent, inflexible boundary, or we may kind of go into the watery side of things where we're not clear about what our boundaries are and we're not sure what to, hold at certain times, and there's a confusion there. And I'm more on that and that there was a confusion there. So in energetic terms, in the practices that I teach, I am someone who is a diffuser. So I have, my energy kind of goes out, and there isn't a boundary for it. It sort of diffuses out. And what that means is that I sort of can't hold my own energy or know what it is, or embody it. I can so much more now. I have really good ways to hold my own energy in my body and be really clear about what it is and where it is. And it's made a huge difference. So so you may be someone who diffuses that energy out. You may be someone who holds your energy really close in, and either one comes from, just energetic patterns that we've developed in our lives. So for me, there was a containment that was needed, and just a containment. And on this side of the spectrum, and I'm curious to know if other people like me experience this, when I try to hold a stronger boundary, or when I even do, then I may get lots of like nervous, especially if somebody else wants my attention. Like, let's say I'm just trying to hold to my work schedule for the day, and somebody wants me to go play or do something. And don't get me wrong, sometimes, yeah, sure, be spontaneous. But, for me, if there's something really important that I'm working on, my boundary, could be a little loose. And I'm sort of easily pulled, or I hold my boundary and then I'm sort of like, oh, but, did they think something because I didn't go do something, this thing with them that they wanted and stuff like that. So there's that end of it. The other end, and you may be anywhere in the spectrum, the other end is like holding this rigid boundary of, and again, useful. The things we do in response to things that happen to us, we do for our survival. I believe that. And so good on you for figuring out how to get through difficult situations, how to survive them. And this is what you've brought forward, right? And where the energy may just not be aligned to how things are now. Because now we're in a different moment than we were when we couldn't defend ourselves and things happened to us. So if you're on this end, then, there may be this very strong, rigid boundary that's really closed off or really protective. And we all have protective strategies that we have put in place. And again, totally good on you. But there, then, there's that resistance. Energetically, there's a resistance, and there, or a disalignment. You're not in alignment. There may be the opposite thing happening, where some point energetically there's a strong boundary, a rigid boundary put in place, but you want to be more open. You want to be able to receive people and things in a more flexible way, but this energetic boundary is really keeping you closed off or closed down. And if you try to step outside of that, then it's gonna, clamp up. So there's this spectrum for us of where we may land. And so, and we might not even be aware of that, right? We're like kind of going through our lives and going through our day, and um, we're holding energy that, or energetic patterns that we're not aware of. So things happen in life, right? Like maybe we're trying to be in a new relationship, and we have a really rigid boundary, but we want to be open to somebody. And there's this disalignment with this old energetic boundary and what we want and what we want to do and we want to try. And that's just one example. There's so many examples. Maybe you're trying to do something at work, be bigger and bolder, and maybe there's some old energetic boundary or protective something that holds your energy really close, and it's sort of not letting you come across the way that you'd like to come across, or anything like that. So we all have ways that we put our guard up for protection. And one of the big ways that this can happen is that we kind of close our hearts off a little, right? Again, I consider myself a very open-hearted person, but as I've done energetic work, especially around my heart space, I can notice these places where there's resistance, and like a protective something energy going on, and with some people it's very clear, and I think that like their heart's completely closed off. And again, that happens, that comes honestly, I think things happen when we're younger, when our hearts are naturally very open, and maybe we get stomped on and treated badly, and we close our hearts off. We say, that's it, I'm done. So I have compassion for all the people who have had to close their hearts off completely. But there may just be resistance, or there may be areas where your heart's a little more closed and other areas where that can be more open, right? And you can find those little spots where we can feel our heart more open. But when we close our hearts to someone else, right? Like out of protection, like, oh, this person, let's say this person, I don't trust them. I don't want to like deal with them. I'm going to close off to them, right? The tricky thing there is that, we might close our hearts down, and even though we think it's about that person, it still closes our heart, or builds resistance to our heart. And that's different than figuring out the discernment of who we can trust and who we can't, right? Like there are people who, for whatever reasons, and given our energetic patterns, we can't trust them, and we want to be able to discern. But I think that we can learn to energetically embody our own boundaries and our own energy, and that discernment becomes much clearer as we get good at doing that, like much, much clearer. It's a huge win for discernment. So learning how to contain our energy, that's one of the things I had to do because I'm this diffuser. I had to learn how to hold it in for myself and not just let it sort of disperse around, because then, right, other people feel that energy, and they actually don't know what my real boundaries are. They don't know, right? And then I'm also susceptible because I don't know. I don't know. And then if you're on the other end of the spectrum, you may feel like you really do know, and you will not let anything in, and you will not let anything happen. But something is staying closed off. And there are times when it's like, yep, no, I'm not letting this happen. Perfectly good and correct and okay. So I wanted to try a little something here that it's just with like this no energy, right? Of just how to see if you can feel the energy in different ways when I just say no in different ways. So, no, 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 no. So, can you kind of get a feel for what's happening? I'm doing different things as I say that. Some of them I'm staying embodied really deeply. Some of them I'm not so embodied. Some of them, like you saw, I said no, but my nodded my head, right? So there's just all these ways that our energy and our boundary, what we say, how we act, can just not all be in alignment. And that's what we're looking to do. And yeah, I'd be curious. I didn't kind of number them, but like which ones you could really feel that I was embodied, and it wasn't really a question. It was just a fact. No. and that was that. Um, so that was just a little fun thing. You can feel the energy of that. Let's see if there's anything else I have to say today around boundaries. Like I said, it's a huge topic. Actually, I wanted to give a shout out to one of my friends and colleagues who is doing a ton of work around this topic. Lori McKean. She's a phenomenal love, dating, and relationship coach. And she's just really got so much understanding around this boundary topic. And she's working in this love and relationship realm, but also really clear about how it can affect our lives all throughout our lives, right? In other areas. So just want to give her a shout out. And I will tag her here if you are, interested in any of this stuff around love and relationships. You can check her out too. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Oh, I had a note about trusting, and I'm not sure what that is. Oh yeah, I said it. Yeah, like sometimes you can trust people and sometimes you can't, and you have to discern. And anything we figure out, again, we're always doing the best we can, and we're figuring things out. And I will just say, after a full adult lifetime of doing personal development work, this next piece around energetic embodiment has really been a huge shift for me. So, and just made things clearer and simple and very practical, like very, very practical. Like you think energy and you kind of think, I don't know what you think, but you know, energetic healing or energetic this or that. Very practical, actually. It's just about becoming aware of your own energy and your own embodiment and what can happen there. And so, yeah, so that's it. And I will be doing a 4-week class series coming up soon in around boundaries. And if you'd like to check out a free intro, I'm doing those once a month. The next one is March 22nd. It will be on Zoom. And believe it or not, you can feel a lot of energetics through the Zoom platform. It still works really well. So thank you for hanging in there on this big topic today for Wednesday Wisdom. It's a little longer than usual, but I really look forward to any comments, insights, ahas you have from this, or if anything you want to share with me publicly or privately. I am always welcoming anything that you have to share around these really important and profound topics. Have a great Wednesday. Have a great week. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Peace and love.